Now, Dr. Mireia Ventura is a pharmacist PhD working as a director of the Drug Checking Service of Energy Control, ABD, since 2007. She is a collaborator of IMIM, which is directly involved with the scientific diffusion of novel psychoactive substances. She's also the TEDI network manager since its beginning in 2011, which is the Trans-European Drug Information Project, a network of European fieldwork drug checking service that share their expertise and data within a European monitoring and information system. So we're going to speak to her a little bit about how to address people who use cannabis from a harm reduction perspective, as well as the type of messages used and what to take into account depending on the age of the people addressed. So Dr. Ventura, you'll be presenting some analysis services as far as harm reduction practices, if I'm not mistaken, and talk to us a little bit about a new trend at the European level, which is referring to the adulteration of synthetic cannabinoids in cannabis samples with low THC content.
Thanks, Jonathan, for the introduction. Yes, I would like to share a presentation with you, talking about the experience that we have learned with more than 20 years, thanks to working with people who are using drugs with cannabis. Yeah. So first of all, I would like to explain from where I am. And I'm from an organization, a Spanish organization, is called ABD. And at the late 90s, we developed a project, it's called Energy Control, because we detect that the use of ecstasy at recreational settings was bringing more problems that maybe if these persons would have some information they would not have. And then at this moment, we have 4 different headquarters of energy control in Catalonia, Balearic Islands, Madrid, and Andalusia. And our main objective is to reduce the risks and harms related to recreational drug use. For this, and now at this moment it's more difficult because we don't have nightlife settings, but we were directly going to the nightlife settings to offer the information and using this outreach work and training our peers and doing some short advices and counseling, but go directly to the place where the drugs are used, and then also offering drug checking services and other type of services that you can offer directly to the person or also to the group, and also that you can do this type of harm reduction strategies to the settings and try to create safer settings, but at the same time, you can also monitor markets and try to give some advices related of the reality of the illegal market that is related to these substances. We are also trying to give some information to people who were falling, I would say, of this universal prevention strategy, which is the strategy that is telling to people that just say no to drugs. The problem is that there are a lot of people that are saying yes to drugs, and then this message has a lack of credibility of the official discourse about drugs. Then the information they have about drugs is not objective and is not useful to use these drugs. Then with this wrong message, we have a high risk of misinformation, because also we need to take under consideration that these people don't feel good at the time that they were falling off these strategies, and sometimes they are using drugs without taking care of themselves because they think that, okay, taking drugs is difficult and is bad, so it's not important the way how I do it. We strongly believe that it's very important the way you are using drugs, and in terms of cannabis, it's also important because we need to think that at this moment, the illegal market is very touched of cannabis. This is also based on the pressure that we have in Spain in the Gibraltar Strait. So the amount of hashish and the cultivation of marijuana in Spain at this moment is much more controlled. And this is provoking some changes in the market that I would like to explain at the end of my presentation. First of all, I would like to show a little bit the way we are working with people who are using cannabis. This is the type of work that we offer to the youngest ones. These are flyers and also an itinerant exhibition, the one of the right, that we are offering directly to young people. We are using these colors, we are using this type of strategy to call for their attention and to try to give positive message to try to gain their trust and try to work later with them about also the risk that they are using or that they are dealing when they are using these substances. So we are trying to reach them from the pleasure, from the benefit, understanding that they are taking drugs in the beginning because they feel pleasure and they like it. And then later we can talk also about the other things that are also important as a risk. This is another leaflet that was developed in my country, this in Catalonia, and this was by the public administration. And this type of leaflet is related, or at least the target group is more general population, so it is the gender is not very specific, and the message are less focused on this target group that are teenagers, but the message are more or less the same. Depending on the target group, we can be more specific on different things, but finally the message are always the same, no? Such as the importance of not mixing with other substances such as alcohol, the way or the you are administrating cannabis. It's not the same to smoke it or use inhalation or the vaporization or use the oral way. Also, it's important when to use, not when you are working. And this type of strategies also is very important about to talk legality. In most of European countries, cannabis is not legal. So for this reason, you have some exemptions, but you need to take care and you need to be aware about the legality. Also, we are talking about the importance of the marketing on the cannabis and how women sometimes are the objectivation of this cannabis market. For example, when we are talking with youngers, we are quite clear about how gender is influenced by this big marketing of cannabis and how women sometimes are taken as an object of this marketing. Also, it's important to talk directly and clear about what it means to have plants in your house in terms of legality. Also about the side effects, what happens when this cannabis is decreasing your pressure, what happens when you are using more dose than expected because you were eating instead of smoking. And of course, we are also talking about other interesting things such as therapeutic cannabis and the use, for example, of filters to use cannabis to reduce the amount of carcinogens related to the combustion, but also depending on the population, but when they are adults, we can talk about drug checking services because the composition of cannabis is extremely important to know which would be the effects of this cannabis, because depending on if they have only THC or if they have also CBD, but also it's important to monitor cannabis because we just discovered something that is relevant that we didn't expect with cannabis, because with drug checking services, what we are trying to do is to inform about the composition of the drugs that people are using and the drugs that they have on us. We can also talk about the harm reductions practices that they are already applying and which other type of strategies they could add to their practices. But the second objective that we have with drug checking services is to monitor illegal markets, detecting new trends, drugs, adulterants, practices, and also making this information available to all stakeholders involved, because we are aware that we are only reaching a part of the target group, but it's important to expand and extend all the information that we are detecting to all the stakeholders that can be relevant. In this sense, I'm the manager of the TEDI network, which is a network that have all the drug checking services that are in Europe. At this moment, we have 18 drug checking services in 12 different countries in Europe working, and we are working together. We are using different test methods, but we are validate ourselves to compare our results. And the message that I have from the European network today is that we found out that something that was happening in Europe that it seemed that was not linked, that are two phenomena, no? That in the last year we see how these low THC cannabis products in Europe were evolving and were trying to get a specific market. Finally, what it seems is that people that like cannabis are not very interested in this type of products. So then it seems that it was an idea that seems good for the person who made it, of course, but in terms of health public is a disaster, that we are detecting these brands of weed with low amounts of THC adulterated with these synthetic drugs. This we were not detecting before, and this is something very dangerous because cannabis products are a natural product which the safety and the recommendations are always related to a well-known natural product. But at the moment that we are detecting a synthetic drug inside the natural product, our work as a harm reduction services changed dramatically. This trend was detected for the first time in Switzerland in 2019, and this trend was being inserted and implemented in different countries. At this moment, we are detecting this trend in Switzerland, but also in Germany, in the Netherlands, France, Italy, and Luxembourg. And at this moment, for example, in the case of Switzerland, most of the samples analyzed, much more than half of the samples analyzed, are being adulterated with synthetic cannabinoids and low amount of THC. In Germany is the second country where we are detecting this trend in much more relevance. This is a map from Germany. They are doing an interactive map to detect all the times and all the places where they are detecting this adulteration. And at this moment, I know that there are more than hundreds of samples that are detected in the country of Germany. So the situation that we have now is a lack of information about the risks of what this trend can mean, because we know that synthetic cannabinoids have much more side effects than the natural cannabis, legal cannabis. And also is worrying the speed with which the phenomenon is progressing. And also this is linked with the difficulty in identification of substances. This is not easy to identify, and we are concerned that there is a misidentification, because some services or some laboratories could not have the resources to detect this trend. Also, we need to take under consideration the context. We need this information from the media and the different messages that we are receiving from media related of cannabis and related of toxicity and related of synthetic cannabinoids, that finally people don't know what is really happening here. Also, as example, in the Netherlands, this type of marijuanas are already sold inside of the coffee shops, and they are sold as the Swiss marijuana without informing what is inside. So the marketing is already playing a role in this trend. And also we have detected several places from internet, new deep web marketplace, where this type of substances are also being sold there. Also, we need to add to this situation that you have cuts in public funding of harm reduction projects. So the big challenges that we have at this moment is that we have newer scenarios for harm reduction. And I would like to highlight that these newer scenarios only would be better if we would have a context of a regulated market. Because a product that we are detecting that is highly dangerous in terms of health public is unregulated. This means that it's not illegal, because it's using amounts of THC enough low to be legal, and they are using also synthetic cannabinoids, which are not illegal, and the mix makes that the product that is more dangerous is not legal, and the product that we know and that is safer is illegal. So this is the situation that I would like to explain now, but I think that it's important to take under consideration, because we need to understand a lot of factors when we are talking about regulation and when we are talking about the impact of the illegal products and these unregulated products that we are having at this moment. Thanks for your attention.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Ventura. I mean, thank you very much for highlighting the challenges we're facing in Europe when it comes to synthetic, as well as sharing the visuals that you've found to be useful in your country when it comes to harm reduction.